Well, the White House calls today Economic D-Day for Iran. But so far at this hour, it's unclear when new sanctions on the country will go into effect. So with talks and fighting stalled, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent announced Operation Economic Outcast this afternoon, which basically threatens sanctions on entities and countries that do business with Iran. But the secondary sanctions will not take effect immediately. Instead, President Trump is calling world leaders, asking for their cooperation.
No one is above this. We are going to hold everyone accountable, and this is economic asphyxiation of this regime.
Richard Escobedo covers economic policy at CBS News. Good to have you with us, Richard. So you were at today's news conference. A lot of this lands on other countries falling in line with what the president wants. So the big question for me is, how is the U.S. going to hold other countries accountable? I'm thinking about China, which is the largest buyer of Iranian oil.
That's a question we asked in the room today, and the details are kind of murky and a little vague. One thing that is certain, though, is Treasury is waiving a requirement that says the U.S. government has to prove that individuals and entities have a direct connection to the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. That's the IRGC you hear so much about. So now any entity transacting in sectors like aviation or shipping, which were in the Treasury announcement today, among others, could be subject to sanctions. And Bessent explicitly threatened new sanctions if other countries fail to sever all economic ties with Iran. So it's that threat of sanctions within a certain period of time that really seems to be how they're trying to get other governments to cut Iran off. But it might be pressure from President Trump that gets this done. As you said, Bessent mentioned that the president has been calling world leaders with specific asks and giving timelines. I asked him who the president's calling and what those asks were earlier today.
We're not going to name names, that we've already seen some results, and that I am confident the president, as you all know, is quite persuasive. And we are following his calls up with calls from visits.
Can you say how far the timelines are?
Again, I'm not going to set timelines, but we do not have infinite patience here.
I just heard from the Chinese embassy. You mentioned that they are the largest purchaser of Iranian oil. They're unaware of any such conversation between the president and President Xi, who's expected here in September. Bessent did tease that a financial institution could be sanctioned by the end of this week. But again, he did not say which one or in which country. And again, it's worth noting that the administration said this war would last for 4 to 6 weeks. It's now in its 6th month.
All right, so let's spin the globe just a little bit. Today, Vice President J.D. Vance spoke about the trade war with Canada during an event in Maine. Let's listen to that together.
How is it fair to the farmers of Maine that they pay 250% when the Canadian farmers pay nothing? That unfairness is something that we just have to fix.
So the vice president obviously making the case there. So what's the latest on this, and how will those of us who pay for gas and groceries here in the United States be impacted?
So the chief concern with this trade war and this tit for tat is inflation. Minneapolis Fed President Neil Kashkari was on Face the Nation this weekend. He said the longer this goes on, the more concerning it's going to be. There are those items that are impacted by new tariffs up to 50% in some cases by January. You see alcohol and hockey sticks, for example, there. So this all remains really just kind of hostile. And we'll see what happens in the coming months.
Alcohol, hockey sticks. Okay, Richard, thank you. Good
Important
to talk
things.
To you. Yes.